people speak first from the bias that they have learned. This shows up in like neurodivergence as well. Like I know people who still use the term Asperger's, even though that's an outdated term and harmful, actually. So no, I don't use the term Asperger's, and I don't want anybody else to. But there's also a point where people don't know that. And then if you inform them, now they have a choice. They can either keep using it or stop using it. And either way, I choose to send them compassion because it's a learning process. Hey, neurodivergent creatives. Welcome back to another episode. And today I want to talk about self-compassion. This topic can cover so many things. So I just want to start with the fact that, like, you right now are doing enough. And if that felt really uncomfortable and you wanted to argue with me and tell me, like, but Caitlin, I'm not doing enough of this, I'm not doing enough of that, and if I was really doing enough, it would look like XYZ, then this episode's for you. Keep listening because you are doing enough already. Because what is life supposed to be? Like, all the expectations of being as productive as we can be and being as helpful and serving others as we can be, and like doing the most that we can do in our workplaces and in our homes and in all of our relationships. If you can't just be enough in those places, there's pressure. There's pressure coming from outside you that's telling you, do more, do it different. You know, we talk about that all the time. So today I'm really just going to focus on the fact that you're enough right now and the fact that you deserve compassion for yourself, no matter what you are going through. And this self-compassion can even reach back in time to your younger self, to moments when you did something that later you found out how to do it a little better. Maybe that is judging somebody for something that you didn't understand. I've done that. I look back at my 2008 Facebook statuses and I'm like, why was I such a petty just bitch all the time? Just whining about stuff. And I look back and I'm like, that was a waste of my time to be so focused on petty things. But we know better and we do better. And you can send that compassion for yourself from the part of you that knows better and does better backwards in time to the part of you that didn't know better. And so maybe you didn't do your best. And that's okay. You've always been enough. Being enough is enough. But sometimes you want to be more than enough, and you want to have more than enough, and you want to be resourced more than enough, right? Like if I have enough today to pay any bills that are due today, then that is enough. But then tomorrow, I'll have to see if it's enough tomorrow. And the day after that, do I have enough for that day? But only from a place of appreciating enough-ness can we get to a place of more than enough. And I know I sound like nuts. Like I sound a little woo-woo, if that's what we're still calling it. I don't know. And yeah, this is like a little bit kind of mindfulness, a little bit magic, a little bit just holding some possibilities and using your imagination and your intuition to build a deeper trust with yourself. So I would like to do something really different today and guide you through a self-forgiveness, self-compassionate exercise. So if you are listening in a car, please don't close your eyes. If you want to do this with your eyes closed and really like breathe into it and everything, then I suggest you pause for now, or maybe listen in advance so that you get an idea of what's coming later. But take some time to do this when you can actually take the 10, 15 minutes that we're going to spend together today and listen and let yourself really sort of immerse in this practice. So we are being self-compassionate today. And what I would like you to do is think of a time from your past that you didn't do your best as you know it today, right? So this could be that somebody made a problematic comment and you froze instead of calling them out. And nowadays, you don't have that problem. Nowadays, you are willing to just go get in somebody's face and be like, that was inappropriate, or I didn't get your joke. Can you explain it to me? And just sort of force someone back into their own discomfort instead of just sort of chuckling or being silent and letting a shitty joke, a misogynist comment or a racist comment or an Islamophobic comment. Maybe in the past you let that slide because you weren't sure what to do and you weren't sure that it would be safe for you to speak up. But now maybe you do. Now maybe you go around and you're like looking for people making shitty comments and you just want to show up and be like, hey, did you know that that's inappropriate? Or whatever you want. But here's what we're going to do. That's just one example. This could also be like, an example I have is that I used to really judge people who went to the grocery store late at night with their kids. I was 20. I didn't know. that sometimes there's no other option, that sometimes that's when you have the free time to go buy food for your table and there's no one else to watch your kids. So you have to take your kids with you. I didn't know. I was judgy and I assumed that everybody had the resources to not have their kids at Walmart at 10 p.m. I know better now, but I send compassion to that part of myself. I'm not angry. I'm not like, wow, I sure was a big poopy butthead. I mean, sure, sometimes, yeah, but like usually because I'm making a joke. But at the end of the day, I'm compassionate for the part of me that didn't know any better. And I also try to hold that compassion for other people too. People speak first from the bias that they have learned. This shows up in like neurodivergence as well. Like I know people who still use the term Asperger's, even though that's an outdated term and harmful, actually. Hans Asperger was a Nazi, and he determined which autistics were useful and which autistics were not. And he was a eugenicist. So no, I don't use the term Asperger's, and I don't want anybody else to. But there's also a point where people don't know that. And then if you inform them, now they have a choice. They can either keep using it or stop using it. And either way, I choose to send them compassion because it's a learning process. And especially if you're someone for whom Asperger's syndrome has given you a sense of identity and a way to talk about your neurodivergence, letting go of that is hard. Letting go of that when you have absorbed bias that autistic means something different than Asperger's, when in fact it's all just the spectrum of autistic neurodivergence. Like we're all doing different things with our brains. Being autistic is just an operating system, or the terms high functioning and low functioning. Same kind of deal. They're a little eugenicsy. It's a little bit productive member of society, burden on society. Like there's some days where I'm, quote, low functioning because I don't really want to do anything or talk to people, and I just need to sit and do something cozy with a weighted stuffed animal and just deal with it. That doesn't mean I'm not a productive member of society. That doesn't mean anything negative about me. That doesn't mean anything about like how I function, nor do I owe anybody functioning. And neither do you, because remember, you're enough. Right now, you are enough. So whether it is internalized ableism, some other kind of bias, just something that you didn't know, and so you felt ignorant about in the past, and now you look back and you're like, oh my God, I wish I had known. Cringe. Cringe is growth, my friends. Cringe is growth. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, close your eyes and take a deep breath with me. We're going to breathe in through the nose and exhale twice as long. This is a down-regulating breath that's going to calm your nervous system. Don't use a stopwatch because I don't actually make sure it's exactly twice as long. We're just getting a vibe for it. Take a few more deep breaths in your own time. Try and get that exhale longer. And as you are deep breathing, I'm just going to kind of set us up for what's coming next, which is that you will close your eyes if you are not operating a motor vehicle. And I'm going to have you imagine a younger version of you. That version of you that didn't know. So let's do one last breath together. Okay. And now close your eyes and imagine that version of yourself. Maybe you are directly in the scenario that you want to send compassion to. So if you were having a conversation with someone and you didn't stand up for yourself or somebody else the way that you would now, maybe see that person that you're talking to. Where are you? Are you in the same room where it really took place? Just imagine. In my example of judging moms at Walmart, I'm in the Walmart. I'm waiting in line to check out with my college student groceries. Got some cereal and some chips. And I can see the kids hanging off the cart. And I can see that mom, and she looks tired and she looks frustrated. And I know that she knows this is not the ideal time to have your kids out grocery shopping. I know that now. And so I'm just seeing her. So whatever your scenario is, let yourself imagine it and see it playing out with no judgment. No judgment here. Because you are enough and you were enough then too. It might be helpful to place your hands on your heart or your collarbones, or even like hold yourself in a hug if that is supportive for you, but you don't have to do anything with your hands if you don't want to. And once you have that image of the sort of before scenario that we're working on, once you've got that in place, imagine changing the scene a little bit. So if I was in Walmart, maybe now I am in the parking lot at Walmart, seeing the same mom, the same cart full of groceries, the same kids, but I'm in the parking lot. Change it just a little bit. See what you can do with it. If you were in an office at work, maybe move the conversation to a restaurant. If this is something that happened at your mom's house at Thanksgiving a few years ago, maybe change it. Go ahead and decorate the Christmas tree. And what that part of this little practice here is doing is showing you that you can shift and flex and sort of adjust this memory. Because memory is actually very malleable. And every time you remember something, it is filtering through a lot of stuff in your brain. We actually can't go back and access a picture perfect, very clear, this is exactly what happened memory, because each time you remember, it's filtering through a little bit of a different filter. Your emotions, how much you've talked about this setting. Like the things that I have talked through in therapy and handled aren't as triggering anymore because I have accessed that memory so many times and played with it and looked at it from different angles. And so this is just a very brief example that is possible. Change the color of the lighting, change the height of the person you're talking to, change their voice, make them sound like Mickey Mouse. Like you can do anything here. And that's just to show that your brain is capable of bending and stretching and doing very interesting things. And so this is how you can send that compassion to your past self. as if you really did know different in that scenario, and as if you really did speak up, or you really did advocate for yourself, or you really did not think judgy comments about the mom at Walmart. So let's go ahead and do that now. Just think about all the love and compassion that you have to send to that former self, to yourself, part of you. And if you have trouble being compassionate to yourself on a day-to-day basis, maybe sending compassion to your past self will be easier. I hope so. Because again, you are enough right now. So I'll show you my example. I am sending compassion to the young college student that I was when I didn't really know much about poverty. I didn't have a very nuanced worldview. I had been poor. My family had been on food stamps. Like, I had been in poverty, and yet hadn't applied my own lived experience to understand that it affects different people in different ways. And I didn't know how to do that. I was still very young myself, basically a child. And I don't expect children to have super nuanced understandings of systemic poverty and classism and racism. I actually don't remember what race the family was. But it's really easy to just sort of operate from bias. And so I send myself, my former self, that 20-year-old version of me, I send them all the compassion that I have for the fact that they just didn't know better. And I know that they're going to grow up and they're going to learn better and they're going to do so much better and they're going to do so much good in the world. And they're going to love people and they're going to call out systemic poverty problems and they're going to rage against capitalism. And that person that I am today is the same person that I was then, because I choose to treat my former self with that compassion. To wrap them up in a big hug and say, look, you don't really understand this yet, but you will. And you're going to look back on this and be like, oh, I fucked up. And I'm just saying that I forgive you. That I forgive you. And I love you. And I know that you mean better. And that you just don't understand what's going on here, really. And so whatever your scenario is, go ahead and give yourself a little pep talk. You can pause this episode if you need to. And imagine hugging your former self. Just really squeezing them tight and saying, like, you're going to be okay. You are enough right now. Because you are enough right now, because you always have been enough. Every single day, you're enough. And when you can send that backward in time to the former you who did something that now deeply embarrasses you, you can integrate that compassion and realize that you can now bring that forward. So while you are in this hug with your former self and you're saying, I love you so much and you are enough right now, I want you to imagine having that self-compassion then, and then growing up and continuing to grow and practice that self-compassion every single day until you are the age that you are today. How would that impact your life? How would that little bit of encouragement and just trust that you are enough snowball and exponentially change the way that you think about yourself right now today? Do you feel like you are enough? Can you see that you were enough in that past moment? which means that you are enough right now. You can do this exercise whenever you want. Any single time that you find yourself looking back on a memory and thinking like, oh God, I wish I had known better. I wish I had done something different. I wish. That is your cue to take a deep breath and rest your hands on your heart and think about that person that you were and send them enoughness and send them compassion and send them everything that they needed to know that they are enough that day. And then imagine that growing up with you and being even more than enough for today. Okay, I love you guys. Tell me if you liked this, because I would love to do more of these. I like these little kind of guided practice sessions. I had a lot of fun. And I hope you had a lot of fun too. Bye.